All right, hi everyone. So today I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to be telling you guys about what my birth story was like with having Riley. The reason I'm doing it is it's just because it it took a turn towards the end with having him, and there might be some mums or mums to be out there, especially as a first time mum. I was the first really in my family to have a kid, so I didn't know exactly what to expect. So I'm gonna try and break it down and try and be honest with you guys about how it went. Everyone's birth stories are different. Everybody has a different journey that they go on. So I'm going to try and piece it together for you guys. When I was pregnant, I wanted to know all the worst case scenarios. I wanted to be mentally prepared for more what could go wrong than for oh, it's going to be fine. Oh, it'll be great. What you want about, like, what you're talking about will be absolutely fine. You're not going to have any problems whatsoever. I wanted to know what could go wrong so I could be mentally in a place that when they turned around and said something, I was like, okay, that's what that means. That's what was going to happen next. So yeah, I'm going to do a little story for you guys today. So I'll jump right into it. Okay, so pregnancy wise, I had quite an easygoing pregnancy. I didn't have that bad morning sickness. For me, with morning sickness, it wasn't continuous, it wasn't all throughout the day. It wasn't just the mornings, it was more, I'd have an episode in the mornings and in the evenings was pretty bad for me. And also, I found more than anything, it was like 2 a.m. I would wake up and I would be hungry, and that would make me feel sick. So, for me, with morning sickness, it was a case of, it's going to sound really weird, but have you ever been drunk? Like, you know, as a teenager, you go out drinking, you go to your mate's house or something like that, and you're drinking and you're like, I need to be sick. I need to be sick. And once you're sick, you feel fine again after. That's what morning sickness was like for me. It was a case of I'd stand there and go, ah, dear, here we go. Yeah, time to be sick. And as soon as I was sick, or at least attempted to be sick, I was fine. I was absolutely fine afterwards. I was like, oh, okay, I'll crack on with the day. So, like I say, easygoing pregnancy, really. A little trick that I found, I think my dad told me to do, was you can get these like almost like water crackers, like biscuits. And I had those next to the bed. So at 2 a.m., I'd wake up and I'd eat a couple of those. And it was just something in my stomach to help settle it. Because obviously, you can't take things like Pepto Bismol or anything like that, which you would usually take for an upset stomach, because you're pregnant, so you can't. So that was like my morning sickness and everything, and that really did stop around 14 weeks. I was fine after that. Everything was pretty smooth sailing. I did get horrendous pain in my hip, in my left hip. That was for me the most crippling part of being pregnant. I was still working at the time, and I was a nail technician, and I ran my business from home. So my clients would go upstairs, and just going up and down those stairs multiple times a day was awful. But luckily, I had such a good relationship with my clients that they were so supportive, and they were totally fine with everything. But it meant, like, walking the dog, for example, walking Goku was like awful. So my partner really had to step in and do the majority of the dog walks, because he's a big dog and he needs a lot of exercise. And if I can only go halfway around the block before I'm in tears, then that's not fair on him, and it's not fair on me. So yeah, there was that. And that stayed consistent from about 20 weeks onwards. So as soon as I started to get big, and with him, he showed early. Like I was very lucky in the sense I had a beautiful round bump, but he was heavy and he showed early. When he was born, he was only like, I don't know, it was like, yeah, when he was born, he was only like 6'5" or something. He wasn't a big baby at all. So he was perfectly in proportion. He was a happy, healthy baby. So don't, like, it was more my body just didn't know what to do with itself, and it just went huge. So when I got to about 38 weeks, I started to see the health visitor and my midwife, not the health visitor, the midwife. I started seeing her more and more. And the hospital for us is about an hour's drive away. We don't have a hospital nearby that is equipped for sort of childbirth and things like that, unless you're going completely natural. And so I was seeing my midwife, who was lovely and she was brilliant and she was so supportive, and I was like one of her last ones before she was completely signed off. And I remember going in for my appointment, and she sat there and went, "Are you okay?" And I was bent over. I was like just desperately trying to gather my thoughts because of this intense cramp I had in my stomach. And it wasn't a cramp like period cramps, it was a cramp like someone had punched you in the stomach and your stomach muscles had completely tightened and they weren't releasing. It was that kind of pressure. And I was trying to be honest with her, and I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I'm really struggling to listen to what you're trying to tell me right now, because all I can think about is not holding my breath and trying to sort of ease the pain a little bit." And she said, "Oh, I think you've got to go down to hospital, love. I'll ring up and get them down there." And now my partner was working. Like I say, if we're living here, it's an hour's drive to the hospital. My partner was working like 20 minutes added on to that. So I rang my parents and was like, "Guys, I can't drive. I can barely reach the steering wheel with this massive bump." So they came and got me and took me to the hospital, where they did checks and everything. And they were like, "You are having contractions, but you're not in labour." So I was like, "Okay, no worries. Well, if I have the option of going home, I'll do that. Like, if I can just be at home and chill out, I'd much prefer to do that." So my poor parents drove me all the way back again. And the next day, the midwife rang me and said, "Look, I'd really like to see you again, just to like check everything over, make sure you're okay." And I went down there, and my blood pressure was quite high by that point. And they were like, "Oh, have you had any more contractions?" So I was like, "No, not really. Like, I might have a couple in the middle of the night, but nothing that's flooring me, nothing that's really setting off, and it's not consistent." And then she said, "Look, your blood pressure's really high and you are like swelling." My feet were awful. And I had heard and I'd been told that at the end of pregnancy, like towards the end of it, your body really just retains all the water and you swell quite a bit, and swelling in your feet is something like that's quite normal. However, these were bad. So she was like, "Look, sorry, you're gonna have to go back to hospital." So my brilliant, beautiful parents came all the way back again and collected me and took me all the way to the hospital, and 5 hours later they took me all the way home again. And then the hospital said, I think I actually like discharged myself that time because it was quite late in the evening. I think I'd seen the midwife around 4 p.m. and I'd got something to like 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, "Look, if I'm not in danger and if the baby's not in danger, can I go home?" And they said, "Yes, you can. We can't get a doctor to come and see you because everyone there unfortunately was having to have like cesarean after cesarean. I mean, they did not have the staff to come and just check on me, who in the grand scheme of things was kind of doing fine. So I was like, he's needed elsewhere, stick him where he needs to be. So my brilliant parents came and got me again, and the next day I saw the midwife again, and my blood pressure was really bad, and they were like, go to hospital, like enough's enough, you've got to go down there, you've got to see the doctor, you've got to get checked. And here comes a plane. Okay, so I went down there, and that time they were like, yeah, your blood pressure's pretty bad, like this isn't great, we're going to keep you in. And so I was like, okay, no worries, that's fine. And my partner came and dropped like a hospital bag. I'd had it all pre-done and like kept in the corner anyway, and I just like kept that to one side, and I was like, that's fine, like I'll stay in. And on the third day of me being there, that's when I had Riley. And on the second day they were like, look, your blood pressure's it's not great. It's not like you're gonna die, but it's not great. We want to keep this under control. I think we're gonna induce you. And at that point, I was like, fine, whatever. Do what you gotta do. Like, just get this child out of me. So, we started the whole procedure of like, inducing, which if you don't know about it, there's two parts to it. Or there is in the UK. I don't know about everywhere, but where I was, there's two parts to it. They do the first part, which is kind of like slightly like a tampon kind of thing, is they put it up there, and it releases like I can't remember the chemical off the top of my head, but it's they release that, and it hopefully starts getting everything rolling. They were like, you're already 2 centimeters dilated, you're going in and out of contractions. So basically what they had told me is for like a week, I had slow onset labor, I think is what it's called, where it doesn't really actually go anywhere, but you're having contractions and you're going through the motions of it. It's just not really taking off. So that happened, and I had my show in the morning on the third day, and I was like, look, still not really feeling anything, like nothing's really kicking in. So in the evening they took us up and they said, okay, we're going to take you up tomorrow, so get your partner to be around, get all of that happening. And my partner, it was super frustrating, because that's when we got a message saying that all our kitchen that we had ordered like 5 months prior was going to be delivered the next day. I was like, are you kidding me? Okay, like, I'm not going to lose my shit over this. Like, just, it is what it is. And my poor partner was like running around and trying to like juggle so many different things in the air. And the brilliant guy that he is, he managed it, he sorted it. But, so they took us upstairs, and they were like, what we're going to do is we're going to break your waters. We're going to put you on the drip, which is the second part of the being induced. And we're going to go from there, and we'll see what happens. So we were really lucky. We had a big room. There was a massive recliner chair for Rich. I was really comfy. They broke my waters, no problem. Some people say that having your waters broken really, really hurts. I didn't even notice it, like, at all. Like I say, everyone is different, but I didn't even hear the pop. Like, Rich like jumped because he heard the pop, but I didn't hear a thing. And then they started the drip, and I was like, right, I'm gonna go and have a bath and try and chill out and get comfortable. However, I got in the bath, and it was like the wrong place for me. Instantly in yourself where you're like, I don't want to be in this bath. I do not want to be in this bath. Get me out of it now. And my partner Rich, he was just kind of like, it's okay, like, try it a bit longer. And like the whale that I was just like holding onto the bath sides, just like, get me out the bath now. So he was like, okay. And we walked back to the room, and I was pacing around, and I was being on like the exercise ball, and I was just doing everything that I could just to try and like get control of it. And my midwife was brilliant and she was so supportive. The only thing that she kept telling me to do was to stop apologising, because apparently when I'm in pain, all I say is sorry. I will swear and scream and whatever, and I'll apologise straight away after it. And she was like, you're in labour, love. Like, it's fine. Like, if you want to swear, swear. Like, you know, it's nothing we wouldn't have heard before. So I was like, okay. And she said, and then she strapped me up and she was reading the contractions. And she was like, oh, love, you're having a tough time. Because at the beginning, in a space of 10 minutes, this is what she told me. I do not know if this is like everywhere, but you know, this is what she told me. You're supposed to, in the beginning, have like 3 contractions in 10 minutes. So you're supposed to go like up on the graft and then down and then have a gap and then up and then down and then a gap and then up and then down. I was having 8 contractions in 10 minutes. So I was just up the whole time, drop, and then like back up again. And I burst into tears at one point because I was like, I need a break. I cannot continuously be this knotted and feel like I can't catch my breath. And if I'm 100% honest, I lost control at that point. I wasn't in my head. I wasn't doing my counting. I wasn't keeping it steady. I lost control and I fell apart. Like, I remember, God, this is embarrassing, but I remember holding onto Rich's neck, like at the top of his t-shirt kind of thing, and scream crying into his chest. And all I kept saying was, I need a break, I need a break. And they tried to do a drip that like slows it all down again. And it didn't, basically. So they were like, look, do you want to have an epidural? And I was like, yes. Because I went into it with not like a birth, I went in with a birth idea, not a birth plan. My original thing was I was going to go to a different hospital and just have a water birth and just be gas and air, and it was all going to be really natural and lovely. And my body was like, love, that's not going to happen. So no, get down off that cloud. So I was like, right, at this point, anything goes. The only thing I really didn't want was to have the injection in your leg. I can't remember the name of it now. I will write it down below if in doubt. I'm going to keep my train of thought going. But I'd heard from other people that it made them feel quite sick, and I was like, the last thing I need on top of this is to feel sick. So the anaesthetist came in, and she, bless her heart, she was like, when you have that break in the contraction, let me know and we'll do it then. And it was like 5 minutes passed, and she was like, any luck? And I was like, nope, still in contractions here, like this, nope, still going. So she just went ahead and did it, and I honestly did not feel at all the epidural. She was like, stay as focused and as still as you possibly can. And all I could think about was, do not flinch, do not move, even though you are in the peak of a contraction right now. So all I could feel was the contraction, so I didn't feel the epidural at all. It takes about 20 minutes for the epidural to be like completely working. And so they get you on the bed, they get you comfy and everything, and like set up, because obviously you can't move after having an epidural. And like Rich was in stitches because I was just sat there like, oh, turns out I was gonna scream the house down and burst into tears. Like, I didn't see that coming, but sorry everyone. Like, didn't mean to make everyone's eardrums bleed. So that was that. So after the epidural had kicked in, I was knackered. I was in labour for 12 hours, and the thing with having an epidural is it slows everything down. Because your body cannot feel it, it's not going as fast as it could. So I did 12 hours of epidural. Rich slept the whole time. Like Rich is one of those guys that as soon as he's in a recliner chair or he's lying down or he's horizontal, as we put it, like he's gone completely. And he says, I'm not sleeping, I'm resting my bones. Like, so I was desperately trying to sleep as well. And the midwife came in and explained to me that when you're induced, your body doesn't kick out like almost a natural chemical, a bit like, sort of paracetamol or anything like that. Like it doesn't kick out a contraction's coming, better give your body a dose of this to just help it out a little bit. So it's like you're doing it raw almost. Your body is completely shocked by the fact that you're having a contraction. So I was like, that's absolutely fine. I've got an epidural. I'm cool. I'm set for a bit. So I kept trying to sleep and just try and get as much rest as possible. I have no idea what time it was by that point because it was dark outside. That's all I know. Like, and about 11 hours on, the midwife came back and said, baby's doing fine. Baby is super, super content. The only thing is at the beginning, he rolled over and like shift places. So he was back to back. So when they say your baby's back to back, what they want is when they're born, you want them to come out facing the ground. You want their head like face down as they come out. He turned sunny side up, so he was looking at the sky if he was to come out, which means his spine and my spine are grating on each other, which is why I was getting such a terrible pain in my back. So that's what that is. And she checked me over and she was like, let's see how dilated you are and everything. And I got to like 8 centimeters. So I was like, oh, okay, not much longer, another 4 hours, not much longer. And she's like, you're going back down now. You're going to like 6 to 7. You're really swollen. His head is really swollen. I'm really worried about you pushing. And I was like, okay. What do you suggest we do? And she was like, look, I'm going to get the surgeon in and the doctor and everyone like that, and we're going to see if it's worth having a C-section. Are you open to having a C-section? And I was like, yeah, like just, I'm done now, just get him out. And so they left because it was all quite quick, and the doctor came in, she was like, you need to have a C-section. And I was like, okay, cool, that's what we're going to do. So she like almost ran out the room to start getting everything set up and being like, right, okay, we need surgeons, we need the anaesthetists, we need everything like that. Guys, we need to be on board. Rich is still fast asleep in the chair by this point. So I get my Lucozade bottle. Useful little trick, if you're going into labour, have like the Lucozade Sport, not the fizzy ones, like the flat, but the juice. And they've got like glucose and things like that in it, and it does give you energy, it does help you along. So I got the bottle and I like lobbed it at his head, and I was like, wake up. And so he got up and was like, what's going on? And I was like, going into surgery, like we need to have a C-section. So he was like, okay, like freaking out a little bit, but I had to kind of be like, I'm the one having major surgery here. Like, can you be my rock a second? And so he was absolutely like switched it on and got all dressed in the gown and everything that he needed to have. And we went in. Now, because I'd had an epidural prior and obviously I was going into surgery, all they needed to do is still in your spine. So it's like all they need to do is just like top you up. And I was lying there on the table, and they put the big blue screen and all of that jazz, and they introduced themselves, which is really nice, and they're really friendly, and it was actually quite a calm scenario if it wasn't for the fact I was freaking out. So they said, okay, we're just gonna like poke you a couple of times with a knife, can you feel anything? And unfortunately on my left side I was like, yes. And they were like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, it's not like pressure, it's like a bee sting. They were like, right, more epidural in her, please. So they did that and they started going and it was fine, and they said, okay, he's kind of stuck, his head's kind of stuck, because you've swollen, he's swollen, like you are going to feel 3 sharp tugs for me to try and get him out. And I was like, okay, like, thinking, I'm lying on my back, I've got an epidural, what could I possibly feel? And I was lying there and my whole body went boomf, boomf, boomf. on the table. And I like Richard sat here and I just slowly turned like, what? What was that? And he was just like sort of wide-eyed, wide-mouthed, like, oh, I don't know what to say to you right now, Soph, but okay. And then Riley came out and he was fine. And they said, do you want to have a look? And I was like, no, I don't. No, I don't. I'm really now freaking out. Like internally, I'm just there like, no, I don't. And Rich was like, yeah, okay. So they dropped the screen and he went, it looks like my brother. And I was like really? Thanks, dude. And they said, do you want to have a look? And I just went, yeah, okay. Dropped it. I have no idea, to this day, I have no idea what Riley looked like. I think I faked the whole direction of where I was looking and everything. Just, oh, very nice. Okay, cool. To lie back down. And he stopped breathing, which is perfectly fine. Well, normal and expected, I should say, is the right word for C-sections. He stopped breathing because instead of going up the birth canal and having everything sort of like blown out of their system, all the gunk and mucus and everything, he kind of went, oh, what, I have to breathe on my own now? Oh, okay. So they sort of took him over to the table, got him breathing, heard him cry, and I was like, he's fine. No worries. Cool, he's good. And then they took Rich over there to cut the cord and everything, and I was just lying there, and I had this amazing female sort of helper. I think she was like a anaesthetist assistant or something, and she was just talking to me, and I just remember looking at her and going, I'm gonna be sick. I do not feel right. And that prickly sensation when your blood's leaving you. I was like, oh dear. Before I chunder everywhere, and they get those cardboard like little bucket things, and they sort of put it next to my head there, bless her heart. When you're lying on your back and you have like an empty stomach, because if you're induced, you're not allowed to eat for like 24 hours, just in case you have a C-section. So makes sense really. But you're lying on your back, you're completely paralyzed from like chest downwards, and your stomach's like in two. I was like, how am I gonna like be sick into this bowl? I can't do that. So luckily I wasn't sick, but I felt it. And then everything for me kind of gets a bit hazy. So now I have to kind of tell you the story of what Rich has told me. Because I was like, guys, I don't feel right. And Rich is over there with Riley, sort of going through everything, checking him over. And he just hears the surgeon and the other surgeon just go, right, okay, we're going to need such and such, and, and everyone starts to get really busy in there. And I'm sort of going in and out of it. I'm just going a bit like, everything's like, I've never fainted in my life, ever. But it's like you're falling asleep. That's the only way I can put it. It's like, I just was like, I'm so tired. I'm out of it. And the midwife gave Riley to Rich and took him back to the room and said, can you stay here, please? Like, just stay here. So's having a bit of trouble. I'll be back in a minute. So poor Rich is just sat there with Riley, this new son going, is she okay? Like, someone tell me what's going on. And so the midwife comes back and says, look, she's losing blood. Like, she's, there's a nick, there's something going on, and she's losing her blood. Luckily, I'm O negative. So with my blood, they can like almost recycle it. They did a sort of thing that they told me about beforehand where they catch your blood and put it back into you. I don't know if that's the same with all other blood types, but because I'm O negative, which is like the universal blood type, like I can only have my type, but anyone else can have mine, if that makes sense. They did that, and every now and again I'd come back into consciousness, and this woman, I was like, I am so freaked out. Like, I'm so freaked to meet my son, because I felt so selfish, but it's not selfish, I felt like, what is happening to me? What has just happened? I was like full-blown anxiety, desperately trying to keep control of myself and not have a panic attack. And she was like, it's absolutely normal. That's absolutely fine. You're going through the ringer right now. Like, it's okay. You're allowed to just kind of think about yourself right now. Your baby's fine. Your partner's fine. Let's just think about you. So I was like, all right, cool. I like you. You're cool. And they like sewed me all out. They sorted it all out. And I was like in and out of consciousness. And I remember being moved off the operating table onto the bed and going in and out, going down the corridor, back to the room. And then I was out. And I woke up and there was two midwives over there, Rich holding a baby, which, you know, is ours. And then he just kind of pointed and I looked up and I had like all this like, you know, sort of blood on a drip and things like, you know, all of that happening. I was like, what happened? And he was like, well, you lost nearly 3 litres of blood. So they had to kind of like kick us out and jump on board basically. So I was like, that's why I feel crap. Okay. And then the epidural come down started, which is kind of like when you stop having the epidural, like your body goes through the shakes. And so if you have an epidural, I want to pre-warn you about that. The shakes are real and they are very, very intense. It is like you've walked butt naked into an industrial freezer, and you are shaking uncontrollably. It is nothing necessarily wrong. It is just the epidural leaving your system. That's all it is. And when the epidural goes in every time, you can feel it going down the tube behind you and into your spine, and it is like ice cold liquid. Like, that's what it feels like. It's not unpleasant, the epidural going in, it's just that's what it feels like. So it made sense that when your body gets rid of it, you kind of get the shakes. And he was like, do you want to hold him? And I was like, not right now. I wanted to, and I wanted to see him, and I wanted to do all of those kind of bits, but I was like, I will drop him. Like, I will drop him. I'm shaking that badly. So Rich brought him over and I had a look and I was like, oh, you're quite cute, actually. Like, because I didn't think babies were quite that cute. But he really was. And even the midwives were like, he's a little stunner. And we were like, oh, I bet you say that to all the parents. And they were like, oh no, we tell them if it's not a good looking baby, which is quite cruel, but funny. And it made me giggle. And then the beautiful midwife offered me toast. And I was like, I love you. Like, you get a Christmas card, you're amazing. Yes, I would love toast. So after that, I managed to hold Riley, and I remember just looking at him and thinking, oh, you're not that bad, really. You're not actually that scary. You're okay, dude, that's fine. I had some lovely toast, a cup of coffee, and they sent us back to the recovery ward, which was really nice, and we were the only ones in there. And Rich was like, if you're okay, I'm going to go home. I need to check on the dog, because bear in mind, we've got a dog at home this whole time, which his brother had come and, you know, helped out and looked after him. But we were like, we've got to, you know, go make sure I let him out for a wee and things like that. He's got to be looked after as well, which his brother had done, but Rich needed to go and get sleep. So I was like, that's fine. And obviously, having a cesarean and everything, I couldn't get up. So they gave me a buzzer, which meant that every time Riley cried or needed something, I'd buzz and a midwife would come and help me. And these midwives were so, so good. I had heard such horror stories about this hospital and how they were really bitchy and they didn't really help or anything like that. And it might be the fact that in my particular room, we have like 6 beds. Is that in my particular one, I was the only one there, but they were so lovely and so good and the best human beings I've ever met. So that's kind of my birth story. Like, there is more, and I could do a video if you're interested about this kind of stuff. I could do a video of how I found breastfeeding at the beginning and the struggles we had with that, which the struggles were real with our breastfeeding. So if you want to know more about that, like, comment down below and say, I would love to hear that story, and I will gladly make a video for you guys. I hope you found this interesting. I hope it didn't scare anyone that's about to have a kid or anything. It's not bad. It's fine. You can do it. It's just, I was one of those people that I was desperately trying to find all the horror stories. So I knew what could happen and like the step-by-step of how it goes. But the only thing I will say is it's really hard to be nice to people when you're in that amount of pain. But if you can continue just to be like lovely to your midwives, they will be lovely back. In the the week prior of being in hospital, to the midwives I met there, to the midwives I had when I was in labour, and to the midwives I had afterwards, all of them came and visited me afterwards. Two of them, one had stopped working there and had moved to a different place, sort of 2 hours drive that way. And another woman was like on her holiday, and they came in and saw me and were like, we just wanted to come and see how you were doing. You were really lovely. You were really friendly. And I was like, wow, like you guys are awesome. So to the best of your ability, just try to keep kind to the people that are helping you, and they will repay it tenfold. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave it a like. Feel free to subscribe. I'll do more videos like this for you if you enjoyed it. Comment down below that you did, and I'll know to do more. But yeah, hope you found it interesting. See you later.